Thank you for joining us again today for the Fresh Fire Ministries podcast. This particular podcast we've entitled Faith, Fun, and a Touch of Foolishness with Dr. Paul and Brother Aaron. And we're glad you're here. Hope you'll stay for the whole podcast. We started in the previous podcast a series on Charlie Kirk. And the title of the first episode was From Halloween to Charlie Kirk. And my brother Paul here did a wonderful job of tying all that together. And today we're going to pick up on the second installment of this little series. And we're going to be dealing with the memorial service that immediately followed, and then a lot of the things that's transpired since then. And I look forward to hearing this, so stay right where you are. Bookmark us, follow us so you can pick this up and watch it again whenever you want to. But anyway, Dr. Paul, I'm going to throw the ball to you.
Okay. Well, as we mentioned last time, All Hallows Eve, which became known as Halloween, was a Christian celebration that had been changed from being a pagan festival into a Christian celebration of Christians who not only lived their faith, but died for their faith. Because we live in a world where there's a lot of vitriolic hatred, anger, and violence. And we're going to see some examples of that today. Charlie Kirk was trying to be a force for good, a force for love and forgiveness, and that was spelled out in his memorial service when, as we finish with how his wife, his widow, emphasized that as Christ taught us, we must not hate a person who kills him, who is full of hate themselves, but we must love and forgive them. And that's what he did, that's what she did. And we see how much we need people like Charlie Kirk, because we have a force in our society that is encouraging us to hate, criticize, and condemn those who disagree with us. Here I have another news clipping. I use several news clippings, and this is a commentary that is entitled, and this is not a religious publication, but a news publication. It says, Charlie Kirk showed the left won't let you think. In other words, won't let you think differently from them. As I mentioned last time, when I went to college, I was a little left, and I see benefits in a liberal orientation when liberalism means looking at both sides of an issue. And what we once called the liberal left has unfortunately been taken over by what I now call a lunatic left.
Amen to that.
Who don't tolerate open discussion or disagreement. And you see this in how certain spokespeople spoke out so vehemently against Charlie Kirk and his views. For example, this columnist points out the very day after he was killed, Representative Ilhan Omar, Democrat, Minnesota, who disgraces Congress every day she is in it, dismissed those who praise Kirk for civil debate as full of expletive deleted, and accused him, I know, of hateful rhetoric. And she is serving in the United States House of Representatives. Her fellow squad, the extreme left, what I call the lunatic left, and I think you can prove that that's true. Member Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, Democrat, New York, characterized Kirk as ignorant and uneducated, when in fact she is the one who is ignorant and uneducated.
Yep.
Like Ocasio-Cortez, people like her, he says, rely on hot rhetoric And that's true. He also goes on to write, it took less than a day before Harvard students said Israel was entirely to blame in the Hamas terrorist attacks in which Jews were murdered and tortured, beheaded, burned, raped, kidnapped, and beaten. What does that say about this extreme left in their view of Israel as well as their view of Charlie Kirk?
It tells me that they, well, it's lack of a better word, you ain't supposed to use this word, but stupid.
Yeah,
Stupid.
or it's really a kind of arrogant, ignorant lunacy. It really is, and they're just unwilling to listen. As you talked about on our previous podcast, it's not about what we say alone. It's got to be about how we listen before we say what we say.
And you're talking about that on the talking, go 5 minutes back in this program we're doing. You was reading, it says, then she said, an expletive. I heard this once, and I totally agree with it. It said when somebody's cursing like that or whatever, it said cursing is an ignorant person's attempt to communicate when they don't know the language, the vocabulary, or the nitty-gritty of the language. They don't have the words because of their ignorance to express their frustration, so they revert to that. So anytime any of these politicians, and President Trump does it, some of the Republicans do it, the Democrats much more so, when they're up in front of TV cursing and whatever, I'm saying, you're showing your ignorance. Use the words that articulate what you want to say.
That's right, and you're not trying to be helpful or beneficial. You're using words as bullets to hurt, damage, if not kill a person's reputation.
Yep.
And what you're really doing is you're hurting, damaging, killing your own reputation.
Yep, that's true. Very, very true.
Yeah, it's really. Now, another news article, a different one, says when Charlie Kirk was shot, TikTok, Reddit, Blue Sky, and X were teeming with social posts, often from fairly generic progressives, who I call the lunatic left, celebrating Kirk's murder with a specificity and glee that was shocking. And can't they see how evil that is?
Evidently not.
And here's one that's really shocking. If you're watching ABC News, I think you should question it.
Amen.
The ABC News reporter Matt Gutman completely debased himself with a bizarre report in which he praised the shooter for touching messages to his transgender boyfriend.
I don't get it.
It tells you there's a great deal of lunacy embedded in this extremism. There really is.
And you're drinking the Kool-Aid. They are when they buy into this. Because, Paul, I've been a lot of things in my life, and I've been confused about a lot of things in my life.
Especially when you say amen.
Yeah, but I've never been confused about what my gender is.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I'm sorry, to me, that's just sad. But it's not to be promoted, and it's not to have men who think they're girls playing girls' sport.
Absolutely.
Or invading a girl's locker room. And the Democrats have lost their mind and soul when they embrace that.
That's right. But here you are.
And you've got to say that honestly and forthrightly.
But here we are in this stage of the story, the interview that you're doing, that here you've got a guy who's just killed one of the greatest prophets we probably will ever see in our lifetime.
Certainly a contemporary prophet, yeah.
And just killed him, and then he's turning, and the reporter is praising his trans lover. And society says, this is all right. have you a trans boyfriend or girlfriend and somebody says something you don't like, go out and kill them? If they say something's off limits, like a bathroom, just go in the bathroom anywhere, the locker room. And no. There comes a time, and I was thinking about this a while ago, there comes a time, even as Christians, you got to push back. Not in an ugly, hard way like Charlie Kirk did. He went on the campus in love, but in essence, I'm pushing back. He said, no, you can't come any further. And this is, I'm getting on my tangent here, but this is what I don't understand. You have a border around the United States that says you can't come unless you come legally. If you come in illegally, then anything else past that first domino falling is illegal.
I came legal.
Yes, you did.
If I'd have come illegal, I would have got in the way of someone who wanted to come legally, and that's not right.
That's right. Well, then you take that. Now, that's the boundary. But even then, you go to the game of football. You got this team lines up on that side, this one on this side. If one of them crosses the line, they get penalized for being off sides. But this, whatever, I started to say this generation today, but you really can't even say that. This overwhelming evil that we're dealing in today says, eliminate all the borders, eliminate any penalties, just do what you want to. If somebody don't do, then kick, scream, and holler like a little baby.
And let me give an advertisement for our next session, deals with that. And this is from Yale University Journal.
That great and distinguished place of higher learning.
A generation in crisis. In other words, Yale University says we've got a psychiatric problem among this young generation because of all that's being taught and pushed is not working. Let me give you, just read this morning, hot off the press.
Hot off the press.
Taylor Swift is not known as a right-winger, a Trump supporter at all. But she's being condemned by the lunatic left. You know why? Let me read. This isn't even about Taylor anymore, the criticism. I generally feel like we're being destroyed if young people have been convinced that getting married and having kids is inherently conservative. She's being criticized for talking about and getting excited about and singing about getting married and having kids.
Oh, my Lord.
I mean, right in the fold, and I read it this morning. Isn't it crazy?
Well, you talking about that makes me think of a column. I assume our listeners know, but I do a lot of writing, written books, and I do newspaper writings. I have a pastor's column in several newspapers each week. And not long ago, I published one. The title of it was, It's Not Okay. And I believe that's where, as conservative Christians in America, that we've come to that point when we don't need to roll over anymore. Because we've capitulated, we've been Chamberlain from Britain for way too long. It's time that when we start encountering these things in a loving way, we just say, no, it's not okay. And mean it. It's not okay. Instead of trying to finesse around the issue or whatever, there comes times you just got to hit it head on and let the chips fall.
And I think on an encouraging note, there are more and more Christians who are recognizing that, and more young people who are seeing the truth of that and are gravitating towards the church like they have.
Oh, they are, yeah.
And you see that also in Europe as well as here. And this leads perfectly into a different article. So you can see I've got a bunch of articles. I'm an avid reader.
You walking article.
And this, yeah, I am. And this is another commentator, a different commentator says, after Charlie Kirk, a great awakening, ? This is not a religious publication. This is a news publication. It begins, the collapse of community and the crisis of belonging comprise the biggest stories of the past 50 years. And he said, perhaps the best explanation of our baby births, not having enough children, is that we are more secular and less churchy than in the past. If you want to address our crises of community and family, then you need a religious revival in the United States.
Amen.
Again, this is not a religious publication, but a news publication. The unchurching of America is behind most of our cultural pathologies.
Amen.
And here he says, wonderful quote, our atomized, alienated, hyper-individualistic society is what we should expect from a people who are deprived of what church provides. Opportunities for service, weekly gatherings with people you didn't necessarily choose, and regular reminders that we are embodied, familial, relational, and communal beings. We need one another.
Yes.
We are a less trusting culture also because of secularization. Church-going people are more trusting and trustworthy than their non-attending counterparts.
Amen.
We are forgiving because mercy is now unforgiving because mercy is now a foreign concept, and the teachings of Jesus are forgotten. And the lunatic left are not in touch with that. Omar is a Muslim, not a Christian, and I don't know what Cortez is, but she certainly doesn't speak like anyone in touch with Jesus. We need a 21st century Great Awakening.
Amen.
Charlie Kirk's death may have just ignited a flame of faith that could burn over much of America. After Charlie's assassination, we didn't see violence, his widow, Erica Kirk, said in her oration at the memorial service. We didn't see rioting. We didn't see revolution. Instead, we saw what my husband always praised he would see in this country. We saw, as you said earlier today, revival at the memorial service.
That's right.
Americans, especially young, secular, college-educated people, are more anxious, and we'll be talking about that later in our next podcast, than ever. Less hopeful than ever. More judgmental than ever. The abolition of Judeo-Christian sexual ethics didn't create a happy, free love utopia. It created a broken world with 100 of Me Too stories, women being abused. Our culture is broken and it needs a fix.
Amen.
And in the moment it seems possible that this fix may come not from technology, not from our government, not from the market, but from millions of Americans spending reverent time in the pews and in prayer.
Amen.
Amen.
And that's
One minute, I want to close with a quotation from a Christian philosopher who I've been reading for 50 years. He says, I am a critic of diversity, equity, and inclusion, please. Me too.
Amen.
People in higher education colleges, the DEI people in higher education colleges do act like the police. Because I believe in all three of these. And they do not. He believes in true diversity, true equity, and true inclusion, but they don't. They only want...
They want to force their brand of it on.
Yeah, they want to include only those who agree with them and exclude those who do not. They're like Robespierre and the Reign of Terror in the French Revolution. They said they believed in liberty, equality, and fraternity. And what did they use? The guillotine to get rid of anyone who disagreed with them. And what do we use? Cancel culture.
Yeah. Well,
and the attacks of social media.
That brings me into something. We'll close with this, but the DEI thing and whatever, and I want to be perfectly clear on this, that I'm not against anybody. I don't hate anybody. Whatever. I mean, if you want to be homosexual or trans or whatever, that's your business. Go do it. I don't buy into it. It's against my understanding of the Bible, but I'm not going to hate you for it. And I'm not going to think you a less person for it, even though I don't agree with you. Where my rub comes in is just what you were talking about, the DEI police, that you're going to try to force it on me when I don't believe in it. It's all right for me to give you the right to do what you want to do, but it's not all right for me not to believe or embrace what you're doing. And that's where I was talking about a while ago, and you're saying it too. We come to that point of it's not okay. Not okay anymore. Thank you for being with us today. I hope you're going to tune in for the next edition or the continuation of this little series we're doing on Charlie Kirk. God bless you. Have a great rest of your day.